Welcome to episode 210. Tonight on Book Chat, Brittany and Brad from the Audio Shelf podcast join me to discuss the audiobook The Favorite Sister by Jessica Knoll. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, I am your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. If you are new here, welcome. If you're returning, as always, welcome back. Here on Book Chat, we get bookish with roundtable discussions, book recommendation lists, interviews, and more. Be sure to check out shelfaddiction.com for even more content. If you'd like to leave a comment on something you've heard during today's episode, you can find me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction, or you can call in and leave an internet voice message via SpeakPipe. The links for everything you'll need from today's episode is below in the show notes. Before we get into this, please note that this is a full spoiler discussion. If you haven't yet read the book or listened to the audiobook, you've been warned. So officially, here's your spoiler alert. If you'd like to contact my guests from today, you will find their information below in the show notes. Tonight we are talking about The Favorite Sister by Jessica Knoll. Now, we did listen to this on audiobook, so it had 3 audiobook narrators: Ashley Atkinson, Jenny Barbara, Asia Naomi King, and it was published by Simon & Schuster. This was released May 15th, 2018, so it is a very new release, and the listening time for this audiobook was 15 hours and 36 minutes on the unabridged version. So now that you're prepped for this discussion, let's jump into this and get this party started. All right, everyone. Joining me are 2 lovely podcasters, Brad and Brittany, and they are from Audio Shelf. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves before we get started. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thank you so much. This is so exciting.
Yes, thank you.
So we are Audio Shelf, Brad and Brittany, and we host a weekly podcast that reviews audiobooks, and we also do interviews with narrators, and sometimes we just get off the rails and talk about nonsense too.
That's fun. I'm all for that, actually.
Right? Yeah. It keeps everything light and fluffy.
Oh, it does. And if you guys are new to Brad and Brittany, you might want to check out the review we did on their podcast, because we did a collab. So we have The Perfect Sister on my podcast and we have the Chalk Man on theirs. So you can head on over and check that out when you're done here.
Yep. Sounds good.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump into this, because I feel like there is a lot to say about The Perfect Sister. What do you guys think about that?
Yes, definitely. We were kind of talking about it before we started, and we had a lot of feelings.
So many feelings.
Oh, yes. I had the gambit, from surprise to upset to sadness. I just felt like all kind of emotions about this book.
One major emotion that I had was disappointment.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
I was so disappointed, because Jessica Knoll's first book, Luckiest Girl Alive, was one of my favorite books in 2015. And I've been waiting. I feel like I've been waiting for this book for a year. And I had so many high hopes for The Favorite Sister that I just
Yeah.
It was kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
I do understand what you mean, because one thing that I was disappointed about was that I thought this was going to be a mystery thriller, and I didn't feel that that's what it was at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what we felt. And then the ending was, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but just that's where I felt the biggest letdown. At the very beginning, I was all in. I was like, yes, this is Real Housewives of New York. I am here. I'm present. I'm ready to listen. And then it just got to hour 14, and I was like, this is not wrapping up in the way that I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we love Real Housewives of New York, actually all the Real Housewives. And so we were so ready for this. But
me too. I love Real Housewives too. I watch a lot of it. You guys watch all of them?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Brittany even goes to Australia Housewives and watches that online. So
wow, I tried them. They're a little bit dull for me. I couldn't hang. I tried it though. I did.
Yeah, Real Housewives of Sydney is dark. There's arguments every single episode. It's just Melbourne is classy, and they try so hard to be undertone shady, but they just most of the time can't pull it off. But Sydney is fights all the time.
Oh my goodness. Well, I can tell you guys mentioned New York, and I do believe that this is almost like exactly like Real Housewives of New York, sans the black character.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I don't think there's a lesbian on that either, I don't think. But
No.
Yeah, the only time they tried a lesbian in the Real Housewives was on OC, and she wasn't even a full-time cast member. They just dropped her in for drama.
Yeah.
Oh, and then also New Jersey with Rosie.
Oh, yeah. And they just dropped her in for drama, too.
Yeah, and that's who I imagine Brett in The Favorite Sister. I imagine Brett to be like a Rosie character. And I was like, ugh.
Yeah. And I envisioned her more as like Bethany, just cutting tongue and not there for anybody else except herself, and the product placement and the red color of her logo and spoke.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this is Bethany
It
through and through.
It is. And actually kind of Bethany was kind of, to my, my interpretation of her character on that show, I guess I'll say, is like she was kind of lying about her marriage as well. Like we saw one thing, but it was completely different.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It was very much Real Housewives of New York.
Absolutely. So what did you guys think of our three characters that kind of told this story? It was Brett, Kelly, and Stephanie. They were a trip, the three of them. Who do you think was worse? Like, out of the three, who was the worst?
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
I
felt for everyone. I think I felt more sympathy for Stephanie, even though she was so evil, so vindictive.
Yeah.
And just so, I think she just had a pain about her that made her like this. However, she was so mean.
Yeah.
She was
and
mean.
when she kept calling her husband's penis like a jalapeno, I was like, what is going on? This woman is calling her man's penis a jalapeno.
She took one for the team to sleep with that jalapeno, apparently.
Exactly. And then don't even get me started on Kelly, because Kelly, I felt like Kelly was bland. She was like toast, okay?
Yeah.
No butter,
just regular old toast.
That's crispy on the edges and kind of burnt.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden at the end she wants to have a voice and be all, I'm all about myself. And then there's Brett, who I loved throughout the entire book, but she kept lying to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know how I felt about that. Well, okay, let's start with Stephanie. Let's dissect them one by one. Like Stephanie, I really found myself nodding several times when she's speaking about things. And there was one particular part where I kind of made a note about, I wonder if Jessica Knoll had help from a Black person or not. And the reason why I say that is because there's a couple of parts in here that seem like it's along what a Black person would say, but it kind of missed the mark. For example, there was one part when Stephanie's like, oh, her mother had her getting straightening treatments. I'm like, straightening treatments? I'm like, I know what you mean, but that's not what we would say.
That's not what it's called.
Right, that's not what it's called. But I felt for her, like as a Black woman, I can't imagine being raised by a white woman who doesn't know how to, I guess, deal with some of the hardships of being Black is,
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like a lot of ways, like Stephanie, she had so many problems mentally that she really held herself back from being able to see that her mother really did love her and that she wasn't trying to make her anything different. But Stephanie was trying to make herself different to match what she thought her mother wanted.
Yeah, it's like she didn't think her mother could handle the truth, basically.
Yeah, it's like your mom is raising you like single. I mean, I think she can handle the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I feel like she went into it with her eyes open. You don't adopt a Black child and not know, hello, there's going to be some things I have to deal with. And I feel like Stephanie totally shortchanged herself and her mother by doing that. And I think that kind of led to how crazy she ended up being.
Yeah, exactly. That was like the catalyst for all of it. That was the beginning.
Yeah.
And then just Oh my gosh, I just can't believe how much all the characters lied. Just like the whole book was a lie.
Yeah. And I wonder if they do that like in real life, because I mean, they were lying about the simplest, most basic things to the most serious of things. Like everything was a lie.
Yeah. And that was like, oh God, just like Kelly lying about like that, her and Brett trying to lie to each other about the importance of Spoke, and then just the manufacturing of Spoke. Like that was danger. That was life threatening.
Yes.
And Kelly's like sitting there not wanting different things because she doesn't want to spend the money on it.
Yeah.
It's like, are you serious?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty, like, I felt personally very offended. I'm like, you don't want to spend this money and people could kill themselves on these bikes. And then, and then to later find out, like, well, I mean, the intent was good, but it wasn't good enough for them to just want to do these bikes to help out these women. They have to also make them be raped, and that's not the case. Like,
yeah, like that was, oh my God, just at that part when they're in Morocco and like talking to the girl, and she's like, what are you talking about, rape?
Yeah.
What do you mean rape? I don't understand.
Like, who's getting raped? What are you talking
about? She's like, I've been raped how many times, you say?
What was that?
It was just so, oh my God, just every twist and turn there was like a lie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that made it hard to, like, while you kind of felt, I guess, some connection to the characters, the fact that you could never trust them made it hard to actually genuinely feel bad for them when things happen to them, because it's like, well, dang, I mean, who are you really, actually?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, unreliable narrators are super popular in this genre, but when you're already caught in a lie throughout the book and you keep getting lied to, it's kind of way past the unreliable narrator aspect. It's like, okay, what is the truth? Like, I don't even understand.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I feel like of them, I feel like Brett was like one of the biggest liars. I couldn't even, okay, you guys, like, for real, I could not understand why you would lie about your sexual orientation. Like, I cannot understand.
To kind of piggyback off of your comments on if Jessica Knoll, had contact with an African American woman, like, I wonder if she had contact with a lesbian, because, like, if I, as a part of the community myself, like, when I found out that she lied about her sexual orientation and was still getting married to Arch, and she lived this life of a lesbian, and then all of a sudden she slept with her brother's her friend's husband, like, I was like, what does that do to my community? Like, it fulfills all the stereotypes, and I just got really upset with that personally. So I was just like, ugh, just another stereotype proven true by an author who probably might not know what being a lesbian is.
I'm not a lesbian, but I kind of felt that too. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that a lesbian pretending to be straight would be horrid. So why would a straight person pretend to be a lesbian? That would be bad for them too. I mean, and even at one point, at the end, we're not quite to the end, but at the end, there was this one part where you could hear Brett saying, "I'm tired of breast."
Yeah.
It's like she doesn't like it. She doesn't want it. Like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, is any amount of money worth that? Is it really? I don't think so.
No. I don't think so at all.
And there was a point at the end where I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to reveal that Stephanie isn't black.
She's just going to, like, unzip herself and just be, like, the whitest white girl ever.
Oh my gosh. But Stephanie was, though, like, the narrators, there were 3 different narrators, and the person who read for Stephanie was Asia Naomi King. And I felt like I recognized her voice, so I looked her up, and I saw it was the woman from How to Get Away with Murder.
Well, yes, it was. It was Michaela, which, to me, I think that is, I was telling Brittany this earlier, I think it was the perfect casting for Stephanie's kind of personality. And I love Michaela on How to Get Away with Murder. And basically that is Stephanie if you watch it. And like the whole entire time throughout the audiobook, I was like, oh my gosh, Michaela is in this book.
Yes, that's exactly how I felt though.
Exactly. But I don't think Asia has a mature sounding voice. And for a 34-year-old turning 35 in an audiobook, I wanted there to be more of a maturity. And you can still have that deceitfulness and that evil, vindictive kind of tone. But I couldn't believe Asia as Stephanie, but even though that was the perfect kind of typecast for that role.
Mm-hmm. It didn't work with Brett's voice. Yeah. Like, in comparison to all the other ones, Brett's voice was very low, and she was the youngest one. And so she sounded very old.
Yeah, I agree, because Brett was kind of like scrappy a little bit. Like, she sounded like a middle-aged smoker to me.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes.
and Stephanie sounded like a very young child. And I'm like, okay. And I get that. I kind of felt like maybe she was trying to speak in a like sexy, devious way. That's why her tone was like that. But I agree. She did sound really young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And her voices for the other characters, I think were great. I think she fit in. She made every character that popped up in her narration sound, like flow very nicely with all of the other ones too, with the other two narrators. But it was just Stephanie's voice that I was like, you're supposed to be the older one, but you sound so much younger than Brett. Mm-hmm. It's confusing me.
And then when Kelly, at the end, her narrator, I felt like the voices that she was using seemed to be very childish. Like at the end with Jen and Lauren, I thought there were two kids talking to each other during this murder scene.
Like toddlers.
Oh my gosh. And Lauren, it was like her drunk voice. She's like, what? Who is that? I'm like, oh my gosh. It's dreadful.
Exactly. And I was like, at the point, I was like, did Layla just kill someone? I don't even understand.
She had this like guttural kind of voice going on. And I guess it was because she was high and drunk, but still, it was like, oh, okay. She's very whiny.
Like, yeah, it was like Valley Girl. We were suddenly in LA. I didn't.
Which you had a point about the New York accents.
Yes. All of them, for the most part, had been transplanted to New York for a relatively long time. But none of the other ones except for Brett had any sort of accent whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And I know they're posh, but even Ramona on New York, she is scrappy and has a pretty thick accent.
Yeah.
All of them do. And it's just like, I don't know how long you have to be in New York, if you have to be born in there or what to get the accent, but none of them except Brett had any sort of accent. And it just kind of threw me off occasionally. I think because Stephanie's narrator and Kelly's narrator sounded a lot alike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Totally. Her narrator was definitely the standout. Like there's no question, we're in Brett's mind right now. And the others were kind of a little close. Almost like where they could have just had one narrator do both.
Yeah, definitely. I could have saw that. I would have preferred Stephanie's narrator, I think.
Yeah.
Just because of that end toddler fight. I was like, what?
Like, what is going on? Did I pee myself?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that was dreadful. I'm like,
I want pizza.
I know. She's like, we'll get you pizza after we're done. Oh, in that part, she's like, oh, you spilled tomato soup. And she's reaching for it. She's like, don't eat that.
And she said, don't eat it. I was like, did that girl just try to eat some blood?
I was dead. I was joining Brett in the trunk. I was like, I'm done.
I was grossed out officially. I'm like, oh, I hope she didn't really eat that blood. Oh my God.
I know. And did Lauren ever realize that she was putting a body into a trunk?
I think that I think she kind of thought maybe she had bad dreams or something. Like something was off, but she didn't know what.
And then two of the members at that point were missing.
Yes.
When she woke up in the morning. And what did she think happened? Like, I had some nightmares. People were dead, but then now our cast is missing.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. That was a hot mess. I mean, and actually I kind of felt like for me, I feel like things didn't really start breaking down as far as the tell all in the mystery of it until around 83%. So for 83% of the book, I felt like I was watching one really long Housewives episode.
Yes. Yeah. And I didn't mind it. I was like, these descriptions are really great. Like, I didn't care that it was wordy or that it was like we were on probably hour 13, hour 12, and we still had gotten nowhere. I didn't mind that. But it was when, it started getting to hour 14 and a half, and there still was nothing. And Kelly was still having her inner monologue of, what do I do? Do I go to the police? What's going to happen? That I was like, okay, I'm done.
I'm checked out.
Yeah, I hear you. Because I'm like, I feel like at one point I kept waiting for me to turn off the Housewives and tune into the Gold Diggers. And that never really completely happened for me. In the back of my mind, I was still drawing lines to things I'd seen in other reality shows. I was thinking, oh, who could this character be amongst the reality TV? I was doing a lot of that. And then I realized I was doing it. I had to force myself to stop. I was really trying to figure out who these characters could possibly be inspired by. And I didn't necessarily like that. Like, I wasn't pulled enough into the Gold Diggers or whatever their names are to kind of like just release completely the Real Housewives. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally. Because, my thought was that, we have this author who is wonderful with descriptions, and her prose is great. Like, her story just flows very nicely. And I think she wanted the idea of like, let's have a Real Housewife-esque novel become a murder mystery. But I think she's such a fan of the Housewives that I don't know if she knew how to execute how to put her own original spin on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, next week, Real Housewives of New York is having a murder mystery party. So she should have just watched that. Yeah. Yeah. So she should have just waited to release the book, watch that, see how Dorinda does it, and then go from there.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I am so behind on that group. I need to catch up. Maybe I'll just watch that episode because, those shows are no lie like soap operas. You can skip them for years, turn it back on, and be right back into it and not miss anything.
Yep. And all they've done is just like, maybe they've replaced one screaming lady with another screaming lady.
Yep.
No change though.
So what did you guys think about the producer of the show? Jessie, I think her name was
Jessie.
Yeah. Sweet, innocent, dumb, mean Jessie.
She's the worst.
I did not like her at all.
Yeah.
She was just her and Lisa just like really I hated everybody in this book.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm trying to say. Because Jessie was just like, when she sat down with Kelly at the very beginning, and Kelly was describing how she skipped an interview in order to be on Jessie's exclusive whatever it was for free, I was just like, why would a person, Kelly, who's so concerned with money and being able to give her daughter the best things in life, why would she go to something for Jessie and not actually like take the money? But then you find out in the end that she's still taking the money from the show, and Jessie's still just getting this like, oh God, she's still just doing this interview that just has nothing to do with anything. Like, why was she doing this interview? It was so like bad for Brett. And even though Brett was already gone, it was just like, I don't even think I'm making sense.
Yeah, I felt like Jessie wasn't even doing her job as a producer. No. I think the girls were producing themselves.
Yeah. Yes.
They totally were. They were doing the job of the producer by making up storylines, keeping themselves relevant. They were doing all that on their own.
Yeah, and Jessie was literally just doing nothing. She was just sitting and listening to them complain, to them lie, to their lies coming out. I mean, Stephanie's life was literally eviscerated by the book that she released. And Jessie's just like, whatever, we'll just let her sit in the house.
Yeah.
Like, nobody really cared. And,
she's like, you did this to yourself. Oh, well, like, we tried, but you're just not with us. So next. I'm like, what?
Yeah. She didn't care. She didn't actually care about women. And when it turned into like the Vince hating hour, I was like, are you serious right now? Like Stephanie, Brett, Jen, Lauren, they all did this to themselves and to each other. And Jesse's just going to jump in and start blaming a dead man.
Yeah.
Like I understand the commentary of the book being like, this is how women in society are treated. But it also goes against like the stereotypes, like Brad was saying for Brett with the LGBTQ community. It also goes against the feminist community because they just jumped on and blamed Vince just blindly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Stephanie actually called her out before that final showdown happened. You know, she said, "You're not for us. Why are you so fake?" You know, she pretty much called all that out, and she followed through on, Jesse followed through on that reputation. She didn't care about what really could have happened. All she cared about is we have to keep Brett looking good. We have to, we don't want her being seen with a man. So we're going to twist this.
Yeah, and we have to keep this quote-unquote feminist agenda going, which at the end wasn't really even feminist. Yeah. It was just embarrassing.
It was embarrassing. I felt bad for all of them. And I mean, Kelly, I don't think Kelly made the right choice when it came down to it. What do you guys think about her choice to continue this lie?
Oh, I think it was selfish. I think it was, and I think and like Brittany said, that's the whole commentary of society, is that some people in the world will do whatever it takes to remain relevant and remain, if they're in the spotlight, to remain in the spotlight. And I think what Kelly did was just, this is your sister. This is, you can't come and say like, I know who killed my sister and I have proof. Like, I could not forgive Kelly at the end for just saying, well, I'm never going to tell because I want my life to continue and be better and live up to Brett's wishes and standards. And I'm like, what?
And going to the police was never an option. It was never going to happen. It's just like, are you serious right now? There was no real resolution. There was no real justice at all for the end of the book.
Right.
It just ended with Kelly being the same selfish, being Brett, being everything that she hated about Brett.
Exactly. And the last minute, I rewound like twice because I was doing something. I'm like, wait, is that it? Did I miss something? So I rewound it again. I'm like, oh, wait, that's how it ended? Oh, man. So
yeah. I looked at the timeline and I was like, oh my gosh, I still have 8 minutes left. There's no way that this will wrap up in the 8 minutes. Yeah. And it didn't.
Now, I can kind of see, I guess I can reason how Kelly let it slide when she thought it was Stephanie because Stephanie was dead. So they were both dead. So technically it didn't matter, according to her. But when it came out that there was someone else that actually killed her, and that person is alive and well walking around, there is a choice to make.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I would never, going back a little bit just to the Stephanie being dead, so, let sleeping dogs lie, I would never let my daughter, who was almost killed by Stephanie earlier, I would never let her turn Stephanie into this kind of martyr character. Yeah. Like, there's just no way. Like, I don't care what the daughter thought that she shared in common with Stephanie. There was nothing. They were two different people. They were leading separate lives. The one wanted one dead.
Yeah.
I just couldn't.
Yeah. I kind of also missed the part where Stephanie effectively decided, I'm going to go and kill everyone and kill myself. Like, it kind of just happened. I'm like, what?
It did.
Yes.
It very much did.
Yeah. And that's another thing about mental health. Like, Stephanie, her mental health issues came to fruition, but nothing was ever solved. Nothing was ever made aware of it. And maybe that's what Jessica Knoll was trying to say as well, is that people hide their mental illness and people are scared to kind of face it. But as an author, it's your job to kind of bring that out.
Yeah.
And have some resolution to it.
Yeah. Just tell people like this is not the right thing to do, and really enforce that you need to get help.
Yeah. Yeah, because she totally came out smelling like roses on the end of that, and she did all of that to those people, like the daughter, and then being her involvement with other things. She in lying. I mean, who lies about being raped? I mean, all of these things. She, I guess, in the end, got cleansed of all her sins at the end because of what the daughter did.
Yeah. Yeah, which I felt was just a giant injustice. And the same for Jen, for Kelly not going to the police with Jen, bringing it back to that. Just her not getting justice for her sister. And Brett, the entire time, would be reminded of the happier times with Kelly, just like little memories here and there. It sounded like they had a good, I mean, it wasn't good, but it sounded like they had just kind of an average, steady relationship as siblings.
I don't know about that. I can tell you as an adult, me and my sisters don't be scrolling around on the floor, fighting, pulling each other hair out. That was crazy. How their relationship, I'm like, they're beating each other up as full on adults. Like, what? They're weird.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That part was weird. But just like the small memories that Brett would be reminded of throughout, and why she went into business with her sister, and just the small things, helping Layla through difficult times, even though Brett didn't really understand, she still was there for her. And Kelly to just negate all that because Kelly wanted to stay on the show and keep up an image for Spoke, and didn't want Spoke to go down in flames, which why would it?
Right.
Well, that also leads to everyone in this book had mommy issues.
Yeah.
I mean,
severely.
Even Brett and Kelly's mother, they always talked about how Brett was the favorite one, and Kelly had to kind of live up to Brett's or mom's expectations or whatnot. And I was just like, no wonder she came up with this decision, because she was like, I had the chance to finally be the favorite sister here.
Brett,
yeah. I mean, yes.
Yeah. Brett had a lot of issues that did stem from being treated badly as a child. And I mean, her sister in the early days, you could tell her sister tried to help out. She tried to lighten the impact of that, but that was a no-go. It didn't matter.
Yeah. And Kelly just wanted to remain that, like, favorite daughter kind of thing, that image.
And the irony of it all for Kelly is at the very end, like, you can tell she wanted the spotlight, she wanted her time, but really it's all about her daughter now. It's all about Layla. And it comes out when she's like, wow, you're not in until you get a nickname, and I don't even have a nickname. So she's kind of still feeling away. She's not getting what she wanted after all of that.
Yeah, I mean, she is totally not the one that they wanted. She was just the parental signature on the contract for Layla, and that's all.
Exactly.
I mean, they even said at the beginning that they're raising the next generation of gold diggers. So, I mean, they're starting real young, getting a 14-year-old on a reality TV show.
Real young.
Well, one thing that is different about the gold diggers versus Real Housewives is we know the Real Housewives, they are way older than 34. So.
Oh, yes. What was that? Stephanie was like, my career will end at 35 years old. Right. And then she was like, in season 1 and 2, this person left when they were 31. And I was like, wait. Vicky is like 70 from OC, okay?
She's decrepit at this point. Like,
she should be retired, technically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't even get me started on Lisa Vanderpump.
Oh Lord. Oh, gosh, right.
Oh, jeez. But yeah, they all were talking as if they were movie actresses and TV actresses. And it's like, you're on a reality TV show and you have an expiration date of 35, which is then like, okay, if Gold Diggers kicks you off, go to Real Housewives.
Exactly.
I don't know if it exists in this universe.
Well, it had to, because they talked about a lot of the shows. I think they actually mentioned Housewives, and then they talked about Big Brother, and they talked about a lot of different reality TV shows that are real.
Yes, The Hills.
The Hills with Lauren.
Was a big one.
Yes.
And actually, when that part came up, I remembered that scene. I remembered it. Do you guys remember that scene when she was yelling?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. Was that the mascara running down her face scene too, or was that a different one?
No, I think they were in a club or something, and she's yelling at Heidi like, "You know what you did!" I'm like, "Oh my
You
gosh,
know
I
what you
remember that."
did.
Yeah.
It's that whole season was
So
so
good. And you can tell Jessica Knoll loves reality TV. If she's pulling in all of these different popular shows, she's a fan.
Yeah, which I loved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, this is why I was super excited to hear that you guys liked all these reality TV shows, because I do too. And not that many people will admit publicly to watching them.
Oh, yeah. And what is the shame with that?
No shame.
Well, they I guess a lot of people think that it's brainless TV, mindless TV, but I don't care. It's fun. It's fun to watch. And especially because I feel like this book co-signed, it's not really real. It's all fake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I liked it also because it reminded me of the show Unreal. Have you seen that? Have you ever heard of that on Lifetime?
I love it. It's so good.
Oh my, I love Unreal. And I really I was hoping the producers of Gold Diggers were more like the producers of Unreal. But I wasn't getting that from little old Jessie.
No.
Yeah,
Jessie.
No, she's no Rachel. She was not out there doing that. No.
No, yeah. And I think that, like, going back a little bit to people saying that, like, reality TV is brainless and only people who watch the reality TV shows, they're garbage watching and they're watching trash and filth and all this. It's just like, why do you have to be so offensive to what I like to do with my time?
I like mindless things.
Yeah. Like, I'm not hurting you when I watch my brainless TV, so what does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, like, judgment-free zone, guys. That's how I am. I'm like, I just don't even do it. Like, who cares? Like, I'm not going to judge someone an adult for watching cartoons all day. You do you. You do what you want to do. It's fine.
And then I respond back, I've listened to 38 books. How about you?
Yeah.
And it's only May.
Right. Awesome. Oh, let's talk a little bit about the audiobook itself, like the ins and outs of that. How did you guys think the narrators did as far as like pacing?
I thought they did pretty well. I enjoyed it. It wasn't too well. Okay, well, the book ended up being 15 hours, which was a little much.
Too much.
But I feel like when they were reading, I only took it up to, I think, 1.10. 1.15 or something.
Yeah.
It was not.
Oh, wow.
It was not my normal, like, 1.5 and then 2.0.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to catch up on this because I started the book later, but I was definitely at the 2.0 range.
Oh, wow. That must have been hard to listen to because I had it on 1.25 and I thought that was pushing just a little.
Yeah. Well, I think Brett's narration was easy to follow along with, but she was so, I guess, clear with her diction, and just like her pacing was just easy to follow along with too at a faster pace. I do have to say that Stephanie's narration was more difficult to listen to, so I found myself slowing down when she was talking, especially she had this like hour and 8-minute long chapter. And I was like, I gotta slow this down because I can't listen to this at this fast pace. But I also think Kelly's narration was perfect, and I think out of all the narrators, Kelly has been narrating the longest, and she's narrated the most books. And when I say Kelly, I think Jenny. I think her name is Jenny something.
Jenny
I forgot her last
Barber,
name.
I think it is.
Yes, Jenny Barber. And I think she's narrated more audiobooks than the other two. I think this is actually the first book for Asia and Ashley Atkinson.
Well, I mean, I thought the pacing was decent. I did listen, like I mentioned, at 1.25, which I think helped a little bit because I really did not want to listen to it at the regular pace just because it was 15 hours long. I'm like, no, I cannot. I need to speed this up a little bit. It's like, while I liked the story and I didn't think there was a lot of wasted plot, how sometimes there's a lot of filler. I didn't feel that was there, but I still felt like it was a little long.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very long, and it did feel very long at a certain point. I think after they got past, when they got to the second part of Kelly's interview with Jessie is where I started being like, okay, we need to we need to pick this up a little bit. But I still didn't speed it up just because I was enjoying the pace that it was at.
Yeah, when I downloaded the book, when it first came after pre-order, I was like 15 hours. Oh my gosh.
To pick your jaw up off the ground.
I was like, how am I going to finish this in 4 days? Because I only have a commute.
A 5-minute commute.
A 5-minute work commute. How am I going to finish this? But, you know, I stayed up late like 2 nights in a row and took a nice hot bath and imagined myself in the Housewives world. Wow. And I got through it.
You get props on that, Brad. You get props for finishing. Yes.
Yes. And I had my little glass of wine, or should I say big glass of wine.
All right. Yeah, I think I was listening to this every single day since because I had pre-ordered too. So it loaded up when I woke up on Tuesday. Every day I was listening to this. Even this morning, I finished this morning. So
yeah. Me too. I had 23 minutes left. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to finish this.
I'm surprised that I finished a book before Brad, because I'm usually the one that's listening like day of, just at 2.5 speed. Everything sounds like mice talking. So I was actually happy. I started on Monday and I was kind of sick on Monday and Tuesday. So then I just sat on the couch and wallowed in my pain.
All righty. So, hey, let's rate this thing. You ready to rate it?
Totally.
Okay, yes. Let's do it. So the scale is 1 to 5, whole numbers only. I know it's hard. I know it's hard to not give those 0.5s, but I like to align myself with the Goodreads rating, so you can't do halves on there. So let's do this. Who wants to go first?
Not it.
I will. So I will give it 3. Three bookmarks.
Yep.
And my reason is just because overall, I really loved the premise of the story. I was so excited for it. I do love the author, and I just had high hopes for her and her second kind of coming out with the novel in the novel world. But I was so disappointed. I was let down. I felt like I fell in love with the characters, but then the characters let me down, and I just could not get past that. So I'm going to give it a 3 because there's a lot of positive aspects of it. I love the diversity in the book, and I just love the message, the overall message of being a feminist and how society treats women. But a lot of it let me down. So that's why I give it a 3.
Okay. You want to go next, Brittany? Or shall
Sure.
I go? I can go.
No, I'll go.
Okay.
I think I agree with the 3 bookmark rating. Same kind of thing. I think that it was almost there, but it just missed the mark a little bit for me, especially the end with the very dull conclusion and the lack of wrapping it up and justice for Brett. And then I also really did like the diversity in it. I think that was awesome and something that the Housewives definitely need in it.
Yes.
And some other shows need in there. And I also really liked the commentary at the beginning on like motherhood and how a woman doesn't need to be a mother.
Exactly.
I thought that spoke to my soul. So
me too, because
I enjoyed
I'm
that.
not a mom, so I enjoyed.
Nope, me neither.
That, yeah. Okay, I
have a dog.
Oh, you do? I don't even have that. I don't know what that says about me. But I agree with you guys. I also put it in the 3 category. I mean, it's a high 3, but it's definitely a 3 because for me, and I think it's because I'm also comparing it to her first book that I really, really enjoyed. I wanted that shocking OMG moment, and I don't think I got that here. Even though I wasn't able to completely tell what was going on, I didn't feel the angst about finding out. I didn't feel like the nail biting. It wasn't as, oh my gosh, I didn't get all of that out of this, and I wanted it badly. And I also, like I mentioned earlier, I was really just looking for that break where I was out of the housewives frame of mind and into the gold digger frame of mind, and I never completely got there. So for that, and I give her kudos for like you guys said, making this cast of characters so unique and diverse, she gets kudos for that. Is definitely a lot of interesting topics and themes that she had going on. They were all very aggressive, I guess. I guess she did a good job with what she tried to accomplish, but it just didn't quite do it for me in the way that I wanted it to. So 3 it is, 3 bookmarks out of 5.
Yep. I like that we all agreed on the 3.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we all agreed on the Chalkman too, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Man, we kind of get 1 solid 5 out of 2 choices.
I know. And, actually, I was on the border of a 4. I really was. I was almost there. But after, sitting on it for a couple hours, I was kind of like, I'll go to a 3.
The ending was rushed.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that from Jessica Knoll, because in The Luckiest Girl Alive, it was just so wonderfully paced, and the layout of the book of Luckiest Girl Alive was just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I love that book. I actually think I gave that a 5, if I remember correctly.
I'm going to have to listen to that one.
So good.
Yeah. So actually, for you guys listening, if you haven't read Luckiest Girl Alive, I really, really recommend it. I think we all do.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so are we done? Is there anything else you'd like to say about this title before we, finish up the episode?
Is there anything else?
I don't understand the cover. The umbrella? What is the umbrella? It was raining.
I don't know. That's a good question.
What was the umbrella?
I don't
It wasn't
know.
raining.
And that's I think that's a pet peeve, because sometimes I like to look back at the cover after I'm finished the book and say, oh, that's why they have that little symbol there.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand that.
Was it raining when they went to that club? I don't remember.
I think, oh man, I think well, no, because Stephanie took the 18-year-old out to the back alley and took his virginity. So I think they were outside, and I don't know. What the heck? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember any rain specifically anywhere, especially I don't remember reference of an umbrella. I don't know. Maybe it's just pretty to look at, I guess.
I guess maybe. Umbrellas cover up stuff. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the symbolism.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of. I don't.
Yeah, but I don't know any. I think we covered a lot about this book and
definitely.
Discussion.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot to unpack, and I think we did it in a really concise as we could get it, because we could have gone on. I mean, if we went to dissect every little teeny little thing, we could have, and it would have taken hours, but we're not going to do that to you.
Exactly.
It would have taken 15 hours.
Yeah. Because I did make a lot of little notes about this and that and this and that. I'm like, okay, I don't need to mention all of these. We're not going to do that. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me, you guys. I really appreciate you reviewing this audiobook with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us on.
Yes, we loved it.
Yeah.
Yay, maybe we can do it again sometime.
Oh, I hope so. And I hope we can get some 5s.
Yes.
Yes. Let's make that our goal. You guys send us some audiobooks, that we should listen to that possibly would give us some 5 ratings. Send us recommendations.
Yes.
That's it for today, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. We appreciate you being here. Thanks for streaming and downloading all that fun stuff. And I will catch you on the next book chat. Take care, everyone. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that love pop culture, from books and audiobooks to TV and movies. I'll see you next time here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast.